Hey City Church, Alex Brito here to introduce the next part of our series entitled Sharing the Work, a series where we get to hear from a few of City Church's ministry partners, the people and organizations whom we share the work to spread the gospel around Richmond and beyond. Today, we'll hear about Young Life International from our own Ann Snow. Young Life as an organization has had a profound impact on my own life. I actually met Jesus in college through the ministry of Young Life, where I soon after went on to lead and then went on staff here in Hanover County. In a bit, we'll hear from Ann Snow as she talks about Young Life's work around the world to reach students and her own experiences with Young Life International. Jim Rayburn, the founder of Young Life, has a famous quote that goes, "Young Life isn't just about Jesus, Young Life is all about Jesus." And I love how we can hear that sentiment echoing all across Ann's responses. Let's listen in to Ann as she talks about Young Life's mission to reach every kid, everywhere, around the world. Until next time, City Church, stay well and do good.
Because we loved you so much, we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well. Young Life International is an organization that seeks to build authentic relationships with teenagers around the world and introduce them to the love of Jesus Christ. We're currently in over 100 countries, and we have about 1,500 staff outside the United States, about 20,000 volunteer leaders, and reach about 700,000 kids every year. All with the goal of reaching one kid with the gospel of Jesus Christ. Young Life International doesn't have as clear-cut of an origin story as Young Life. Young Life was founded in 1941 in Texas and then grew throughout the United States pretty rapidly. Over the next 60 years, there were different movements of Young Life International, but really about 20 years ago, we started a strategic movement to build infrastructure and grow our international mission. And since then, we went from reaching a couple thousand kids a year to where we are now, which is reaching close to 1 million kids every year. Well, I grew up involved in Young Life and then also simultaneously had a heart for international missions. And then in college, my husband Tyler and I met, and just the Lord orchestrated us moving to Puerto Rico after college, where I was on Young Life staff there with international schools. We came back to the United States, to Richmond, and I ended up getting involved working to support local ministries around the world with Young Life International. Young Life International believes in building authentic friendships with kids and bringing kids who are disinterested in the church and inviting them to be their friend and then earn the right to share about the gospel with them. One of the ways we do this is we call it contact work. That's simply going to where kids are. So we don't wait for them to come to us. We go to soccer fields, we go to school events, we go to neighborhoods, and we meet kids where they are and build friendship with them. Another way we do this is club. In Latin America, this looks like putting speakers in the middle of the plaza or the center of the town and bringing kids out to play fun games, sing songs, and then at the end share a simple and relatable but radical story about the love of Jesus for them. And then we have smaller groups, we call that campaigners. That's really discipleship, where we teach kids what it looks like to follow Jesus and also what it looks like to share that love with their friends. In Africa, this is the bedrock of what we do. They often describe discipleship like a mango tree. If you have a tomato plant, it grows quickly and it grows a lot of fruit, but it dies quickly as well. Whereas a mango tree, if you plant the seed and you cultivate it, often for years, it then will produce fruit for hundreds and hundreds of years on its own. That's the bedrock of what we do in Africa, and that's the bedrock of what we do all over in Young Life International as well. And we have camp. If you're from the US and you've been involved in Young Life, you might think of Rockbridge or Saranac or these big, beautiful camp properties. Around the world, in most places, it's Young Life staff and volunteers coming together, finding a field, finding a property, and putting together a camp that reaches kids in their cultural, local context, coming up with different ways to reach them exactly where they are, and the community is just coming together. In Portugal, this looks like doing a surf camp. We invite kids for a week to the beaches of Portugal, and they get to learn to surf alongside their friends and their Young Life leaders, and they also learn about Jesus and what it looks like, what his love for them looks like, and what it looks like to follow him. A more extreme example, in Liberia in 2015, after the Ebola crisis, our staff stepped in and said, we're going to host camps for kids who survived the Ebola crisis. They literally called it Ebola Survivors Camp. These kids were considered modern-day leopards. No one would touch them. No one wanted to be near them because of the stigma that surrounded the crisis. These kids were orphaned. They had family members pass away. They were alone. And Young Life put them on a bus and brought them to Young Life Camp and showed them love and care, and introduced them to Jesus. At one camp, there were 1,500 kids, and 1,000 of them met the Lord. Many of them then became Young Life leaders, and Young Life exploded in Liberia because there were leaders who were willing to step into a place and reach out where no one else would. Young Life looks a little different everywhere you go, but the principle is the same. Young Life leaders are going to go to kids who aren't coming to us, who aren't coming to church, and meet them exactly where they are. Young Life had an initiative many years ago called Reaching a World of Kids. And when you have an initiative like that, you can't do it on your own. You have to have people come alongside and help reach kids around the world with the love of Jesus. So there are 3 simple ways that I think about partnership. One is pray, having people come alongside and pray for the ministry. I have a newsletter that I send out where I send specific prayer requests for different ministries around the world, different staff around the world, different camps going on at different times of the year. And if you'd like to be a part of that, I would love for you to join that email list so you know how to pray specifically for Young Life International and the staff that I get to work with. 2, you can participate. There are Young Life expeditions trips in a normal year in non-COVID times. You can come on expeditions trips and you can help put on camps in different places around the world. Like I said, staff and volunteers in a lot of places are putting these on themselves, and so they need people to come alongside and be the work crew, help cook the food, help set up and break down games. There are a lot of other ways to participate, such as joining a U.S. committee for an international mission or country or region. And if you want to learn more about different ways, then I would love to share with you. If a 1-week trip or joining a committee is not enough, I specifically work with staff who are considering what it might look like to join the mission around the world, and I would be happy to talk with you about that. Number 3 would be to partner financially. Young Life is a completely 100% individually donor-funded nonprofit. In order to do this work, we need people to come alongside and partner with us financially. The work that I do is completely funded by individuals and churches who've chosen to join my team and support the work that I get to do in supporting local ministries around the world. City Church can be praying for Young Life International and the work I do by praying for staff and volunteers we have around the world. Like everywhere, the past 1.5 years has been really challenging When the ministry that you do is going to kids, it's really hard to do that when you can't leave your house. Staff are weary. They've been working really hard to find creative ways to be with kids under some of the strictest lockdowns in the entire world. They've done a phenomenal job, but they're tired, especially as this upcoming year in some places things are not changing much. So you can be praying for staff and volunteers as they continue to be creative and just be encouraged in the Lord and have hope in what they're doing. You can be praying for harvest workers. This ministry cannot happen without volunteers, without committee members coming alongside local ministries, without staff being willing to step out and do this work. And lastly, you can be praying for more partners financially, both around the world with local ministries, but also for myself as I raise support to work in this role and help support these ministries around the world.